It's okay, you can move.
Okay, I don't want to, disrupt noise.
It's all good.
Sorry.
Makes it more authentic.
I guess.
This is the Vince Salerno Podcast, episode 24. On today's episode, we have Miley Durbin with us talking about her new film, Chirp, Buzz, and Other Sensations. Also, we're talking about The Shape of Water, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and much more. So sit back and relax because the Vince Salerno Podcast starts right now. Welcome to the Vince Salerno Podcast, episode 24 on this Friday, August 4th, 2017. I'm your host, Vince Salerno, and I'm joined once again, first time in a while, by my special guest, Miley Durbin.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me back after a year, it feels like.
It's been a while, yeah. So what have you, obviously you've been up to a lot. I know what you've been up to.
Right.
Not everybody else does. So what have you been up to since then?
So I, as well as you, I'm getting ready to graduate in a month, so I've been looking at logistics of where am I going to be, what am I going to be doing, but more exciting news, I've been working on my senior project, which we've been in the phase of post-production, so we're just getting it ready to be screened at the end of the month. So yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Yeah, pretty exciting.
Very exciting, yeah.
We had Gabe on here a couple weeks ago talking about it, and now we're going to get your side of the story.
Yeah, I listened to it, and it's so crazy because he talked a lot about, the beginning stages of everything, and it was weird to, listen to it and think back and, wow, yeah, that is what happened. That's so crazy to think about,
it really
the
was
process.
Such a long time ago getting ready to do that.
Yeah, it was crazy. But it's been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying the process so far, so we're going to keep chugging along.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into Chirp Buzz a little later as our topic of the week. First, let's get into our top 5 stories, starting off with number 1. This is an old story, but I want to talk about it, so shut up. The first trailer for Guillermo del Toro's new movie, The Shape of Water, was released. This movie is kind of like a Beauty and the Beast story set in the 50s. There's sea monsters. There's a girl who's a mute and falls in love with the sea monster. It's actually kind of cool. There's a lot of great blending of different elements, like music from that time, and she works at this government facility where they're working on top secret government inventions and stuff like that. That's where this monster is housed. But I can't remember who else is in it, but Michael Shannon, who was in Man of Steel. Now it's all coming back to me. Octavia Spencer, Sally Hawkins, Michael, I can't remember his last name for the life of me, but his first name is Michael, an actor in it. And then I think Doug Jones plays the sea monster who was in Del Toro's previous films like Hellboy. This was a really interesting trailer. I heard a lot about this movie, The Shape of Water, that Del Toro was working on it after he couldn't do Hellboy 3, and then after he decided not to direct Pacific Rim 2, and hearing about this, I was like, this is interesting, could be interesting, could not be, could be another Crimson Peak, still very well could be another Crimson Peak, depending on if you like it or not, but I was really intrigued by the combination of all those elements, the government facility, the sea monster, the Beauty and the Beast angle, the music is what really drew me into the trailer. What did you think, Miley?
So I thought it definitely was very, very interesting. Mm-hmm. I thought it was kind of cool to see like a story like this, because I feel like it's sort of fresh,
Yeah, definitely.
I felt like this is something new. This is something interesting. But the fairy, I see what you mean about the Beauty and the Beast thing. And, working at Barnes & Noble, I see a lot of, the teen books now or a lot of, fairy tale adaptations. So it's very much, we're kind of swinging into the side of, fairy tales are cool. We're going to try to do adaptations of that. But that kind of makes me wonder, okay, is this something we're gonna rehash? Is this a trend that we're just gonna keep kind of recycling things? Mm-hmm. So that was my initial take her.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing that makes it also really interesting that really caught me by surprise was that the main character, the girl played by Sally Hawkins, I believe, who, I guess she's like 41 years old, but she looks like she's way younger.
Mm-hmm.
It's just incredible.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways, beside the point, her character is mute. So it's all sign language, and she doesn't speak at all in the movie. And the fact that she is the one who makes this connection with this sea monster who probably can say a few words. I'm guessing, maybe not. I don't know. But that's interesting. I think that's what differentiates it from what you just said, all the typical fairy tale stories. Obviously, yes, you can make obvious comparisons that it's the Beauty and the Beast type thing, but for people like you and me who love that,
right,
it's kind of okay.
Yeah, right.
I don't think I need to remind people how much we like Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
They know all too well. But yeah, seeing that angle and seeing it such a very definitive character trait in these two, I guess we'll call them lovers. It's not really clear if they're lovers or friends, but we'll just call them lovers. In these two lovers, I think will make it stand out from just your typical fairy tale-esque movie.
Right.
And, there have been other stories that have been made that are similar to that sort of like, I'm ugly, but I like what's inside not the outside.
Yeah.
So I guess it's not a completely original idea, but just the fact that they're using such original characters to tell it, I think, is what makes it stand out. And I mean, it's also Del Toro, so he's made
right.
such great movies like the Hellboy films, Pacific Rim. He did Pan's Labyrinth. Is that what
yes.
That yeah, I haven't seen that, but need to. Bunch of other films that have been very well received and people love them. But he kind of gets. I think he kind of gets a shaft on some of his projects. He was trying to get Hellboy 3 going. He tried to get Pacific Rim 2 going, and then he had to step down as director and go to executive producer so they could make a smaller scale Pacific Rim sequel, which, I guess is okay. It's Pacific Rim. It's fun. It's not that great of a movie.
Right.
But something like Hellboy, though, it sucks because that's something that's like a arc. He's already created an arc with the two films with that character, both well received. You'd want to see him finish that story, but he wanted to make like $100-200 million movie, which studios aren't willing to invest in. So
right.
You just kind of have to bite the bullet, I guess. But
yeah.
Regardless, this movie looks fantastic, and I guess because it's so great and I'm so excited for it, I'm kind of glad that things turned out the way they did for him. So
yeah. I mean, it's very, very different from like the other stuff he's made. So it'll be exciting to see something kind of fresh. And it's like when you hear the name Del Toro, you don't immediately think of this kind of story. So it's
right.
like
it's unique. Yeah. It shows his ability to cover different genres, which I like. As a director myself, I'm trying to stretch myself out like that. I want to be able to cover multiple genres, multiple stories. So seeing other people do that is really inspiring. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be a good original film, and if you guys want to see more original films, you got to put your money into movies like these. All right, number 2, we got the official confirmation that Ant-Man and the Wasp, the new Marvel film and sequel to Ant-Man, has started filming. They showed us a very funny little production video of the seats, the like director's chairs for Ant-Man and the Wasp, but they're like shrunk down to ant size.
That was very clever.
They also revealed that, big cast is back: Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Michael Douglas, I can't remember, Michael Pena. Almost forgot his name. Let's see who else is in this. Michelle Pfeiffer was cast as Michael Douglas's wife, who was presumed to be dead in the first movie. Yes, she's not.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Lawrence Fishburne, Walton Goggins, I think that's how you say his name. We just talked about him. I just talked about it with Gabe last week, actually. Randall Park playing a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, and another somebody else I'm forgetting playing a character called the Ghost. It'll come to me. Anyways, have you seen Ant-Man?
Yes, I have.
What did you think of Ant-Man?
I thought it was a lot of fun. I think I saw it really late, so it was one of those things where, like, I remember when the trailer first came out, everyone was like, this looks awful. And then it was a lot better than people expected. So they were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so, like, by the time I saw it, I felt like it was overhyped for me.
Gotcha.
So I didn't dislike it. It was just more of like, I remember watching it and I'm just like, is like this it? Just based on what everyone had told me.
Good,
it was fun though. Like, I felt like it was more of a heist movie, which was cool because it's like Marvel does like superhero movies. So the fact that it was like a heist, I was like, this is fun. Like, it felt like it was a lot of fun. So I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think that was sort of the first. Well, I guess maybe not the first. Winter Soldier sort of started that trend of superheroes covering different genres but still being superheroes. It was like Winter Soldier was like a political thriller with a superhero. This is like a heist movie with a superhero, or I guess he's not really much of a superhero, I guess, but he kind of becomes one in a way. But yeah, I guess I sort of had a similar reaction. At first glance of the movie, I thought like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's the best movie since Captain America or whatever. And then taking a step back, it's like, well, okay, I mean, it was good. I mean, honestly, I've only seen it like maybe twice since it came out 2-3 years ago. Yeah. So I guess the repeat value, at least for me, has not been great. But I still like the character. I love Paul Rudd's portrayal of Scott Lang, aka Ant-Man.
Right.
And I was happy to see that they were doing a sequel. Seems like they're doing much bigger and better things. They're putting in the Wasp and adding more female heroes to the mix, which I guess is also important because not just for film in general, just giving more female roles to people, especially something as significant as this. But the Wasp is a big character in the comics, and at this point, with however many heroes there are in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's like it's time to put her in there because she's kind of a big character, and if they're going to do what they do with her in the comics, now is a better time than ever to get her introduced as the Wasp. Obviously, she was introduced as just I forget her character's name, Hope something, but to have her finally be introduced as the Wasp is really exciting for a lot of people. And then just the new returning cast members as well as new cast members. Michelle Pfeiffer is playing Janet Van Dyne, who was the original Wasp, just like Michael Douglas was the original Ant-Man. So seeing that is pretty fun. Yeah. Michael Pena, who was sort of the big comic relief of that first movie, he's a great addition. So it's good to see him back. I wonder what even the plot's going to be. Like, we don't really know much about what the movie's going to be. All we got was like a little synopsis about like, oh, Ant-Man's going to, struggling with how to balance his family life and his Ant-Man life. Like, where have we seen that before, Right. With, I think one of the Spider-Man movies cover that. I can't think of off the top of my head, but yeah, I guess there's not too much to go off of, just the fact that, it's exciting to see Marvel get into production with another movie. I believe it's coming out 2018, same time as Infinity War. So I guess that also makes us wonder, is he going to Ant-Man and the Wasp? Are they going to factor into Infinity War? Are they going to be in that first movie? Because it's technically is a two-parter movie with the fourth Avengers sort of taking place right after the third Avengers movie.
I see.
So a lot of questions, not a lot of answers.
Yeah.
But we're excited for the movie, so I guess that's all we can say about it.
Yep.
All right, number 3. We got the first look at, I hope I'm saying this right, Zazie Beetz as a Domino in Deadpool 2. I don't know much about this character. I don't honestly follow a lot of the Deadpool lore. All I know is Deadpool and Cable. That's about it. But we both know somebody who's really into Deadpool.
Yes,
and I'm sure he's very excited about this news. Or I guess maybe because there's a big controversy with the look of the character. I don't know if you've seen what she looks like yet. But
yeah.
The character is traditionally portrayed as a white-skinned woman with a black eye patch, almost like a Dalmatian or a Domino.
Right.
And then they sort of flipped that by casting a black actress with a white circle on her eye, and she has this, like, I forget what the condition is called, but it's like when, like, your skin is like discoloration in parts of your skin. I guess Michael Jackson had it for a time.
Right.
obviously. But yeah, that's an interesting take. Me personally, not being a big fan of that lore and not knowing much about it, I think it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I get why people might be mad at that look, but that it's not comic accurate. But it's like, hey, kind of is. Instead of just a white person with the black circle, it's a black person with a white circle. I mean,
Right.
what's the real difference? And it's kind of a cool way to flip the idea on its head. I don't know, what do you think of all this?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it's like we were talking, all the controversies you said is talking about how she looks, and it's like I've not really heard much discussion on like, oh, I think this actress will be a good portrayal, you know, and it's like, you know, I mean, when you cast for movies, you always want to go for who's gonna represent it the best and who's gonna act the best, and so it's like, no one's talking about, oh, well, she probably has really good talent, or she's probably going to bring something to the character that's really good.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she was in that show Atlanta with what's his name, Donald
Glover.
Yeah, don't know why that name escaped me. But yeah, she's obviously proven she has talent if getting in a show like that, which was Emmy nominated. So I mean, people should be. Yeah, it's like, it's a shame people don't look at the fact that, like, she is a good actress. Obviously, she has talent. Why can't we just sort of hone in on that and make sure that, you know, like, because if she's a terrible actress, like, the look of the character is the least of your concern, you know?
Right.
But I mean, I doubt that's the case.
Right. Well, I mean,
I'm sure if I knew more about this character, if I had, you know, if I was in love with the Deadpool lore, as some people were, I would be like, this is terrible. What are they doing? But honestly, it's if the actress does a good job at portraying the character, that's all that really matters to me.
Right. And I mean, honestly, like, even if it so happens that she flops and she doesn't do a good job, I mean, I feel like the studio is still going to benefit from, like, getting this news of, like, oh, like, we have a black actress, and it's like, I feel like that's what people are going to pay attention to, and there's not really going to be any focus on, like, the character herself. It's gonna be all about, like, oh, representation, like, oh, you know, race.
Yeah.
So I mean, the fact that this has become such, like, a distracting point, it's like, I'm not sure if that was, like, the best decision in, like, a studio,
right,
in the studio.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you just said earlier about just, like, cast who's right for the role, but at the same time you have issues like this come up. Like, Doctor Strange had a big issue of, like, they casted one of the characters, you know, as traditionally a white man, casted him as a black man. One of the characters was traditionally a Chinese man, casted a Celtic woman.
Right.
Litany of other things that they did in that movie that, I mean, I don't care about. Like, I watched the movie and I just try to distance myself from the lore and just be like, it is what it is.
Take it at face value.
So you can take it at face value. And, you know, despite all the inconsistencies with the comic and the movie, it's like, it works. And plus, with stuff like this, I think it is important to have a good amount of representation, not to the point where it's just like, this look doesn't feel real. Like, it just feels like we're making a movie to represent people and different races. Like, if you can make it feel natural, I think that's important, because there are people who feel misrepresented and don't feel like they can have someone they identify with simply because of their skin color.
Right.
Which, you know, I think you can identify with anybody regardless of your skin color. But that is an issue. And I think the fact that these studios are at least considering that and taking the whole race thing out of question, just be like, let's just cast whoever is right for the role regardless of their skin color or whatever their ethnicity or whatever. Just let's cast who's right for the role. And I'm a firm believer in that. And if Zazie Beetz is right for the role, then who are we to say otherwise, you know?
Right.
So we'll wait and see, but I'm okay with the look. I'm sure other people aren't.
Yeah. It definitely still, like, emulates the attitude that Deadpool has, because like, from what I've seen her in, like, costume and everything, it's like she looks like she fits in with the world.
Right.
So it's not jarring. It's like the Deadpool world is, like, expanding. So that's really cool to see.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Okay, we'll move on to number 4. Disney has their Scar for their Lion King live-action remake boot thing. It's not really live-action remake since it's not live-action, but We'll call it a live-action
It's
remake for the
CGI animated.
CGI remake, yeah. Chiwetel Ejiofor, who I guess coincidentally was in Doctor Strange, is going to play Scar, or voice Scar, I should say, in the new Lion King remake directed by Jon Favreau. So now we have Donald Glover playing Simba. We have, oh gosh, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with names today. He played Mufasa in the original movie. James Earl Jones is playing Scar. We have Pumbaa being played by Seth Rogen. I don't remember who's playing Timon. Beyonce might play Nala. That's kind of weird. And now we have Chiwetel Ejiofor playing. And John Oliver is playing Zazie the bird, and then we have Scar being played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. So this is shaping up to be a pretty impressive cast.
Yeah.
I know we keep talking about race and stuff, but again, another person of color added to the cast, which it seems like that's what most of the cast consists of. Mm-hmm. This show is about race. That was one of the big taglines we had with Gabe.
Yeah. I did hear about that.
Chirp just has a way with race, you know?
Yeah, we sure do. Look at us.
Anyways, he's a great actor. I've been a big fan of him way before he was in Doctor Strange, or before he got the Oscar for 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about this casting. I think initially I think they announced, or it was a rumor going around that Hugh Jackman was going to play Scar, and that got me excited as well, because it's Hugh Jackman. Mm-hmm. But this, not only does it make more sense, it also just kind of, I don't know, feels right. He has played very menacing anti-hero type roles before, so I think this sort of fits his, I don't want to say he's being typecasted, but he kind of is, but it fits what he's been able to do in the past. I mean, have you seen a lot of his work, or
I have
familiar
not.
with it?
I haven't, but I mean, I've heard great things about 12 Years a Slave, so I mean, I think if you've got talent like that, I have a lot of faith in it.
Yeah. Oscar nominations, wins usually help. I mean, look where it got Brie Larson.
Exactly.
She was like, I keep bringing that story up. She was like, doing small scale films. Not very many people knew who she was. Mm-hmm. I had my eye on her because I was like, we should keep an eye on Brie Larson. Yeah. And then she got nominated out of the blue for Room, and I'm like, finally.
Yeah.
So I guess off topic, but this Lion King thing is shaping up to be really impressive. They showed footage at D23, which sort of was similar to the stuff they showed from the Jungle Book, where it looks so real that's like you can't tell if it's real or CGI. So that gets me really excited. I just hope that Disney doesn't rope Jon Favreau into doing these types of movies for the rest of his life. I think he's going to do a second Jungle Book movie after this, and it's like, I love that you're doing these. I love that they're great movies, but I want you to do more things. I don't like seeing directors stick to one thing for a long period of time. It's like maybe like James Gunn. He's doing the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. He's coming back to do the third one, finish the trilogy, and then I think he'll be done then. He'll still sort of be like the Kevin Feige of that cosmic universe, but if you stick around for too long, what may seem like a good idea might not be a good idea, and you're just trying to crank out ideas for these characters. And I know at a certain point you need to take a step back and then revisit them a couple years later if you really want to. But besides that, this movie looks like it's shaping up to be really, really impressive, and can't come soon enough. I have a older sister who loves Lion King. It's sort of like a family staple, or a staple in our family. Yeah. Words. But so it's exciting for us to see this come alive. Just like I roped my family into seeing Toy Story 3 when that came out. Those are like the two big staples in our family in terms of movies: Lion King and Toy Story. So right. Yeah. It's cool to see these franchises have sort of a resurgence of a sorts, and it's not, like a sequel to Lion King, because I think if you did like a straight up sequel, it'd just be like, really don't need this. Right. Yeah. But who knows? Maybe they'll do a sequel. I mean, they did a sequel on TV and wasn't so good. Right. Yeah. One of those like straight to video types of sequels. Didn't get a second season, so. Yeah. All right. Well, our last top 5, number 5, Star Wars Episode 9 is getting rewritten by Jack Thorne. He's rewriting the script by Colin Trevorrow and Derek Connolly, which I don't want to say is too concerning, but kind of is, because just recently after Colin Trevorrow's new film, The Book of Henry, I haven't seen it, but I haven't heard the best. Is it not good?
I mean, from what I've heard, it's pretty bad. I mean, I basically had like the whole plot like spoiled for me. I mean, I went looking for it because I didn't really want to see it, but I'm like, what's making it so bad?
Right.
And then I heard, just like plot wise, it's just like, what? So
yeah, I had the same reaction when I saw the trailer, because I was expecting this like something similar to what he did with his first movie, Safety Not Guaranteed.
Right.
But it was like they're kids, and then they have a neighbor. They're trying to save the neighbor from their abusive dad, and it's supposed to be like inspirational and whimsical and
so dark.
Imaginative, but it's also so dark. So I think what I'm hearing is like it's a unsuccessful clashing of two specific genres.
Yeah, I mean, even the trailer is just kind of a mess. Like, I didn't know what kind of movie it was after seeing the trailer.
Exactly. So that brings into question Trevorrow's ability to direct something as big as Episode 9. 'Cause, I mean, this is the last movie of the trilogy, and if you can't pull that off, then, you know, that's a lot riding on you, you know,
right.
reputation to think about and everything. So I guess, I mean, the main thing I thought of when they said a new writer was coming in, I immediately thought, well, they're probably going to rewrite Carrie Fisher out of the movie since she has passed away, and we got confirmation later this week that she was going to have a proper send-off in this movie. I guess spoiling the fact that she might not die. I don't know. Regardless, I mean, that's great to hear, I guess. Not that I want Leia to die in the movie. But,
right, but it's like, logistically, how are they going to approach it?
Yeah. And so that was my main thought. But then, thinking about the Book of Henry, and I guess just Trevorrow's reputation in general, like, even though he did Jurassic World, and that was a major billion-dollar hit, it wasn't that great of a movie. I thought it was very much a popcorn dinosaur movie. Didn't have the integrity and the smarts that the first, well, I guess just the first film had, depending on if you like the second or third movies. But you know, it was a good story that, you know, was smart, but it also was this, you know, popcorn blockbuster movie about dinosaurs. This felt like, okay, let's just make another Jurassic Park movie, and let's, you know, we don't have any other ideas. Let's just, like, we make a dinosaur, you know.
Yeah.
That was sort of my first thought. I was like, oh, okay, that's your plot, really? That doesn't seem very exciting, you know. It doesn't seem very Jurassic Park like. That seems like, I know, it didn't feel like Jurassic Park when I first heard it. Then I saw it, liked it, but still had that feeling that's like, could have been better.
Right.
Could have been a little smarter. Characters weren't so well developed. There was definitely like a relationship between the brothers that I was invested in. Sort of a relationship between Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard's characters. But anyways, I'm getting totally off topic now, ranting on Jurassic Park.
No, it's fine.
Jurassic
I mean,
World.
This is the guy who's gonna like helm the project.
Yeah,
you know what I
Episode
mean? It's
9.
like,
so yeah, it's a big responsibility to take on Star Wars Episode 9. I mean, this is, we didn't even think we'd be talking about these movies until, you know, several years ago. We thought like, oh, we're done with Star Wars forever, and then lo and behold, the new trilogy is happening.
Right.
So the fact that we're even talking about this is pretty incredible. But yeah, no, it definitely raises some red flags for me. I don't know, what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I mean, I think, especially after the whole like Han Solo thing of like, like they're taking him off, then we're bringing new people on, and it's like now this, it's like it just kind of makes you wonder, like, you know, are these gonna fall apart? And it's like that's really obviously scary to think about. But I mean, I think honestly, at the end of the day, like, as producers, like, you make the right decision of, okay, he was successful with Jurassic World, like, who's to say he can't handle, you know, Star Wars? Because it's like, Yeah, Book of Henry not so good. But it's like if you look at the genre of it, it was not Jurassic World like Star Wars-esque.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's like a good thing to be like, okay, that's probably not a spiel, but
Right.
Jurassic World had some success, so
and
it's probably going to be an upshot,
Yeah, and he did do Safety Not Guaranteed, which is a phenomenal movie. And one thing that I will say about his directing is that, like, the actors don't give bad performances, and at the end of the day, that's sort of the director's responsibility, is to pull good performances out of the actors. And I will say that he has the ability to do that. So maybe their solution to this is maybe the script wasn't to where it needed to be, and they needed a new writer. Just like, look, you're great at directing actors. We'll write the script for you. You direct the script, and you get those emotions out of the actors. You just worry about that. So maybe that's why this is a thing.
Right.
There's a litany of reasons why this could be a thing, but
right.
I know I'm not as worried as I am for like Han Solo, because at this point, me personally, I think those spin-off films have a reputation to be not as well received. I mean, Rogue One, I've had people say it's a masterpiece, best Star Wars movie ever. Me personally, I did not think it was that great, and I think the reshoots devolved what the movie could have been and what it was marketed as.
Yeah.
And I was really riding on... I liked what I saw from those first trailers, and seeing the movie as it was, it felt very toned down. It feels like Disney is sort of... even with the whole Phil Lord, Chris Miller thing, it feels like Disney is scared to take a chance on making these spin-off movies different. And that's the only reason I was behind the spin-offs, is because, like, okay, as long as the saga films feel like the Star Wars classic stuff that we love, and the spin-offs feel like, you take a chance on something different that we haven't seen before, I'll be okay with spin-offs. But if we're just going to, I mean, they even got, like, Ron Howard, a very Spielbergian, George Lucas-esque type director, to do Han Solo. So that worries me. It's like, okay, I get it, but isn't that the point? That's why you hired Phil Lord and Chris Miller. That's why you hired someone like Gareth Edwards to do Rogue One. You want to take a risk on these movies and do something that has the ability to not just be Star Wars. It can be Star Wars, but it can be a different take on that universe. And I felt like Rogue One was too safe. And I feel like Han Solo may play it too safe as well.
Too Star Wars.
Too Star Wars, yeah, exactly. I mean, me being a big fan, it's like, why am I complaining? But we'll see. So yeah, I guess in conclusion to that, I'm more worried about the spin-offs than I am the actual episodes, because we haven't heard a thing about, like, oh, Rian Johnson, the editing for Last Jedi doesn't look too good. Well, we might need to get another editor or something. It's like,
there's nothing coming out of that.
Yeah, like I think everybody is really happy with The Last Jedi, how that's shaping up. I think he's happy with it too. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't know Jack Thorne's credits, what he's written before, but sure, yeah, Disney, if Lucasfilm wants to have him rewrite the script, at this point we don't know what episode 9 is going to look like or what episode 8 is, so we'll only know for sure what's going to happen until we see episode 8, so we shall find out. All right, well, that was our top 5 running down the list again. That was the first trailer for The Shape of Water. Ant-Man and the Wasp starts filming. Zazie Beetz as Domino in Deadpool 2. Chiwetel Ejiofor playing Scar in The Lion King remake. And Star Wars 9 gets rewritten by Jack Thorne. And now we move on to our topic of the week. Continuing our sort of off-the-cuff senior projects discussion.
Yeah.
Last week, 2 weeks ago, we had Gabe Moore talk about shooting and co-writing Chirp Other Sensations, and now Miley, who was the director and co-writer of the movie.
Yep.
We're here to talk about her, so let's get right into it. So yeah, I guess I talked to Gabe about where the idea came from and how you guys, from like conception of the idea to actually writing it, and then up to the pitch to Sky. And so you just want to like walk through that process first?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't want to repeat a lot of what he talked about, but I just know that coming off of directing 2, which we were taking this time last year, it
Mm-hmm.
was it was a crazy quarter for me because I'd kind of had this like self-realization before that quarter started that like here I am, a junior, and I want to be a director, but like no one thinks of me as a director. Like everyone, if you asked anyone in our class, I was an editor, which I was fine with because I love editing.
Mm-hmm.
But it just kind of made me realize that like I was playing things safe. You know, it's like I was comfortable with editing, that I had done a lot of that in high school. So it's like, okay, I'll stick to that. And it's like I didn't really take risks. I didn't take chances for when I would direct things. I think I had like this subconscious thing of I'm not as good as other people in my class, so I'm not going to try to be good, if that makes sense. Because it's like, oh, I expect myself to reach a low bar, so I'm not even going to try to go higher. And so after like a lot of reflecting and being like, you know, I don't want to graduate regretting anything, I came to the school wanting to do a senior project because that's what the administration had talked about when I had my phone interview to apply here. And at that point, I was like, you know, I know Susie's doing one. At the time, Meg Boyle was going to do a documentary and she wanted me to help produce. And so I just kind of accepted, like, I'm not going to do a senior project. Mm-hmm. And then directing 2 happened, and I put so much into just my weekly assignments, and then I did a final, which was very well received.
Very.
And then I remember Professor Scoggins telling me, he's like, you better do a senior project. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I even had people telling me, hey, if you're going to do a senior project, I want to help out. Like, and this was before I was even accepting that I was going to have an idea or even do one. Mm-hmm. And so I remember like that finals week, Gabe and I had like a heart-to-heart about like all that we've accomplished or haven't accomplished up till that point. And it's like, you know, we don't want to graduate feeling like we've missed out on anything or we didn't do something because we were too afraid. And so we shook on it. We're like, we're going to do a senior project together. I didn't know what that was going to be. We just knew we wanted it to be like indie because he and I love the independent film genre. And I think if you get 2 people who really, really know a genre to work on something together, there's going to be great things that come of that. So that's kind of when we decided to do it. And then getting ideas was complicated because it was like we didn't have one. And then out of the blue, this idea just kind of hit me, and I was just like, wait, what if we did this like really funny comedy about this girl who is grown up in a very like Christian upbringing, and so she gets freaked out when she is like her very first sexual attraction to somebody. And like at first there's like a lot of like miscommunication with Gabe about that, because first when I said that she was attracted to her best friend, he assumed that meant that it was her female best friend. So it's like, oh, we're doing a gay character. And so that was weird to kind of like, we had to clarify that.
Clear the area.
I don't know what I think, I don't know, if you hear her best friend, you just assume, you know, same gender best friends, right?
Yeah.
So in like all the log lines, all the pitches, I always say her best friend, Lenny. Like I emphasize it's a dude. So we don't have that confusion anymore. And it was just also interesting because it's like the whole thing of kind of going through that part in your life. Boys and girls experience it very different. Mm-hmm. So Gabe was kind of like, I'm interested, but what? Like, what does that mean? You know? And right. So I just kind of gave him the rundown of like, oh, so this is usually how it happens for girls. And, you know, this is kind of what I went through. And I think it's so, I just thought it was funny because it's like, I know in my own experience, it was like, you know, I didn't think it was, I thought, you know, those feelings came up kind of almost like you almost will it to happen. Like, oh, I'm interested in having sex, therefore I'm going to feel this way. And it wasn't like that at all. It was more of like, you know, it just out of the blue, like, nothing substantial triggered it, and that's what was so jarring because it was like, whoa, like what? Like it was really confusing. And so I thought we could play off of that and have it something completely minute, completely not sexual at all, and it just like triggers her to feel that way. And so It's like the whole story is her trying to avoid contact with this kid over like really stupid things like a slug bug punch or handing her a donut, you know. And I found a lot of comedy in that. Right. so it just, after that, just became a lot of fun to write. It's so funny because it's like as time went on, I didn't feel like we had been working on it for so long, because it's like Gabe's one of my best friends, and it's like our meetings felt like us hanging out and brainstorming, and it genuinely, it feels like something that's genuinely from the both of us. Like there are lines or there are ideas in the movie where I'll be like, oh, Gabe, that was really great. Like, that was a great line. And he's just like, no, I'm pretty sure you wrote that line. And it's like, we can't separate it anymore. Which feels good, because it's like, you want something that's authentically from the two of you. And it's not like, you know, yes, I'm technically directing, but there's kind of this running joke that there's a lot of people who think Gabe co-directed it, which I think is hilarious. He doesn't like it, because he's like, no, like, that's your job. And it's like, I mean, you had a lot of input. You know, any creative decision I would have to make or change, I didn't feel comfortable doing it without getting his advice first, or kind of his input.
Right.
And that's cool, because it makes it something special, because it's like, if either one of us was out of the picture, this movie wouldn't have happened. And I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think you guys both brought, obviously the same style as I was saying with Gabe. Like, you had that very quirky indie comedy, which I just love.
Yeah.
It's a great style. I'm glad you guys chose to use that style to tell the story, because it really makes it unique. And I think with all the senior projects, and this one specifically, maybe just because I've heard a lot of what you said about it and been involved, it feels like this specific year, a lot of the senior projects are really pushing the envelope like never before. Like, with all due respect to the previous projects, they all sort of tackled the same genre, the same type of stories. It was very, like, emotional stuff, and I came here thinking, like, okay, but there's more than one genre out there, guys. You can cover more ground. You can still create these impactful stories, and while still being a comedy, or still being in a post-apocalyptic movie, or being a silent comedy drama film, or psychological thriller, or a family drama, all done in Spanish. So I'm really, really impressed with our class this year, and that we've been able to see what's been done before and think, you know, we can do better. Like, there's more to this, and I hope for future classes that's what their mentality is. Because I mean, obviously the drama genre has potential, and it's a great genre where great stories are told. But I feel like, because that's sort of been the ongoing thing at the school, people think like that's the limit of what we can do. It's like, no, we can make quirky indie comedies. We can make all these great films that feel real and feel like, you know, we're pushing the envelope. And I think that's great, especially with your guys. I think that there's a lot that's just like, oh, JPCatholic's doing that. You know, initially it's like, what is it's about sex? It's like, well, no, it's not about sex. I mean, it kind of is, but not really.
It's so funny. We were talking about how I think Gabe said it's the most innocent movie about sex you can make, because I'm like, no one even kisses in our movie. Like, nothing graphic at all happens at all. It's literally just topics. Right. And I think there's a cuss word in there, maybe. Yes.
I mean, I don't know if kissing would be considered graphic, but
right, yeah, it's like it's so funny. And I think that was the point, because it was like, I feel like in movies we always see we don't see this tackled in a very in-depth way. It's always either like someone's trying to lose their virginity and it's kind of like on the way to do that, or it's like their idea of having a sexual awakening or a sexual exploration is that they indulge in it. And it's like, we never see kind of like that in-between phase of like, what's going on with my body? Like, why am I feeling this way? Does what I'm feeling in my body match kind of what I feel in my heart or even in my head? You know, and it's like, people ask those questions, and it's really, it's hard and it's weird, because it's like you want everything to kind of line up, and you start, second guessing a lot when they don't. And so I think I always go into like wanting to make a story of like, what have I not seen before? What have I not like seen in movies before, talked about or explored and dove into? And I think that this is a side of the coming of age story that I've never seen, because I think it's hard for me to believe, even when you do have the message of like, you shouldn't indulge in sexual desires, it's still mapped out in a way that you have a character who does indulge and then realizes it's wrong. But I have a hard time believing that everyone goes from point A to Z that quick. It's like there's so many in between steps, and there's a lot more happening kind of in your head that's that we don't stop and think about. And it's crazy because it's like when we had our test screening a couple weeks ago, we had a couple people tell us like, you know, I actually really related to this, and a similar thing, obviously not as extreme, but you know, a similar thing happened. And it's like that's what we want. It's like we want people to be like, okay, I'm not the only one, or like, yeah, that is how I felt. And obviously the story's an exaggeration, but it definitely comes from a place of reality. So I'm really excited that we were able to do it, and I'm excited that people are excited for it.
Yeah. I just touching on the relatability of the movie. I remember doing the read through for it, and having that same thought, like feels like a real, like anybody, not even just myself, can relate to this story. Like I felt like anybody can pull from this an experience they had that's similar, if not exactly like this.
Right.
Also, it's just like super funny. I don't think I've laughed at a script more than I did reading Chirp.
It's so funny because it's like Gabe and I, from script to storyboarding, we were very much like, we thought of everything very carefully. You were on set, so there's stuff that you know where it's like, okay, we're getting this coverage in just like this one kind of shot. So it's like we didn't have tons of coverage for some shots because we knew specifically this is what we want to do, and we want to cut to this in here. And I wrote it with like the editor's mentality, so that helped a lot too. And it's just like a lot of our jokes were we had a lot of visual comedy going on. And it's like, now that I step back and think about it, stuff could have easily not worked, because it's not a punchline kind of comedy. It's like you have all these moving pieces coming together to make it funny, and it's like if one of those pieces wasn't working, it wouldn't have been funny. And so I
kind of like situational comedy.
Yeah, it's like situational comedy. It's all about the reactions. It's all about when to take a pause. It's about performance. It's about how you deliver a line, and it's like, it's timing, you know. And I think that I count my blessings that there was so much that worked. I think we only have a couple things that I was like, that wasn't as funny as it should have been, or that could have been a lot better. But I mean, it's only a couple seconds out of like, I think it's like it's come to like a 13-minute video. So it's, wow. I think that's really impressive that we were able to make it funny and that people laugh, and that feels good, because it's like, I imagined it in my head, and it's funny because it's like, with that kind of comedy, it's hard to explain why it's funny. You have to set everything up and explain it like really in depth before you get it. You can't just say a line and it's like, yeah, that's funny. And so it's like a lot of it was me talking to Gabe. I'm like, okay, so picture this, like we're gonna set this up, and then this happens, but we're cutting here, and then it's like, you know, it's like I really had to explain it. So to see what was in my head be on screen is like, it's really cool.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So let's talk about the casting process.
Yes.
This was
fun topic.
It's a fun topic. Yeah, as directors, it's fun to talk about. But you had a very interesting time casting one of the characters, Lenny.
Yes.
So I guess let's start with casting Angie, the main character.
Yeah. So I mean, the casting process, honestly, it was a lot of fun. I remember waking up at like 4:30 in the morning to catch a train to Oceanside to like take a bus to LA, and it was me and Gabe. I think we spent like 18 hours together that day.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm lucky that he's my friend, because I don't think anyone else would have like spent 18 hours with me. You know, I'm just kidding. I know I have friends. But no, it was definitely one of those things where it's like you're stuck together on a bus for like 5 hours total. You know, it was crazy. But it was like an all-day casting thing. And we were excited because our casting director said, hey, like we have a good number of people lined up. And so we had a lot of people come in for the sex addict support group, which we're kind of surprised about. But then it's like, if you think about it, they had so much fun auditioning, and those were actually really hard parts to cast because we had such good actors, and it's like we could see multiple people playing these roles. And so that was a lot of fun. And then, of course, we did not get as many Angies. And even the ones we did, it was like, okay, I can, like, see it, but it wasn't anyone that came in and was like, just grab me. And then we had an interesting story. I think the most interesting thing that happened, well, not the most, there's a couple interesting things that happened, but so if you remember in the script, there's like a flashback to where she's a little girl, right? So we were holding auditions for them as well. So our casting director comes in with these two little kids, boy and girl, about 12. And she's like, so they're here to read for Angie and Lenny. And Gabe and I kind of look at each other like, what? Like, these are these little kids, and I'm thinking, oh, she's for the young Angie. Nope, like, they were auditioning for, like, the leads. And we couldn't turn them away because they had a whole scene memorized, and they blocked it out and everything, and I was, like, really impressed. And I was just like, whoa. And they did a good job for, 12-year-olds, but I was just like, no, like, you're too young.
Right.
So that was the only Lenny we got that day. And so I was just like, oh, kind of, it's, but I mean, if you think about it, he's not the most attractive character you'd want to play. So, I mean, I'm not that surprised. But, yeah, I remember coming in, our casting director let us go get lunch, and she was like, yeah, I'll hold down the fort, I can record stuff for you guys, it's fine. And so we were getting lunch, and we were coming back, and it was like towards the end of the day, and it was like within our last hour of casting, Eve walks in, and just her look, first of all, I was just like, oh my gosh, I got so excited. And then I heard her talk, and there was just something about her voice that I was just like, that's her. And then she gave such a good performance. Like, her audition was amazing. It's one of those things where it's like Scoggin says, like, the eyes have it. It's like she did this thing with, like, you could see it in her eyes, like the emotion was there. Yeah. And honestly, I think that's what love at first sight feels like. Because I like, she walked in the room and I was like, there's Angie. That's her. Nice. And I remember our first day of shooting, we had to push it a couple hours back because she wasn't going to be able to make it on the time we wanted. And I was willing to, like, rework the schedule because I'm like, I need you in my movie. So she was a lot of fun to work with. Oh, yeah. She's really cool. She was great. Yeah, she's really good, very natural. I loved working with her. She's a lot of fun. Yeah, she was really great on set. Really had that sort of awkwardness of the character. I felt like that was one of the things I saw, at least, that I was like, wow, that's impressive. Yeah. It's like, how are you going to pull that off with the character like that? And it's really cool to see that come together. Yeah. Now, I'm curious, when we talked about this last week with Gabe, we had to go back and shoot the last scene a couple weeks ago. Oh, I guess more than a couple weeks ago. At this point, and she had different colored hair at that time. How did you guys react to that, and how are you guys working around that? Well, so the reshoot itself caused me to have a long list of reasons to be anxious and worried, and I don't think I had time for one more. I was just like, you know what? I can't do anything about this, and I knew that there was got to be some way to color correct it. But even just watching it, like, because it's been edited and everything, it really does, because they had, like, a light overhead. It really does look like just a highlight in her hair, because she's not really been in that lighting setup before, so it's not as jarring on film as much as it was in person. Gotcha. That's good. Yeah. Let's talk about casting Lenny. Yes, okay. Everyone's favorite part. Yeah. My favorite part. So Nick Aleo, who plays Lenny, he's a really good friend of mine. He was one of the people I sent out the script to for notes. And he told me when he read it, him and Preston were having fun with it, and they were just doing it in these like weird voices and everything. And then he told me that he was giving Lenny like a really, really funny like voice when he was reading it out loud. And I was joking, and I was like, oh, like you show up to the audition for Lenny. And he's like, maybe I will. And then it was kind of like a half joking thing. And he asked me like as we got closer to casting, he's like, did you actually want me to audition? And I'm like, I think it'd be fun, you know, because I know Nick even though he's not an acting student, he's very talented at acting. Mm-hmm. I thought it'd be fun to have him in the mix, you know, why not? And I remember on the day casting, no one except for the 12-year-old kid came in and auditioned. So I texted Nick. I was like, hey, are you still up for auditioning? Because, I mean, you basically already have the part because no one came in. But, and so we did like a super informal audition, which we didn't even have to. Like, I knew he was capable of it. And I know the story sounds really like I was desperate and he was a super last choice, but I wouldn't have even given him the chance if I didn't believe that he could do it. Mm-hmm. And now I could not picture anyone else playing Lenny. I think he brought something that's very it makes you really love the character of Lenny, you know. And I think we spent so much time on you know the scenes, and you know Nick was always wanting to do stuff like one-on-one, and we would play with things. He'd be like, do you want me to say this more this way, or how about this way? And I was like, well, let's try both. Mm-hmm. And he treated Lenny like a character and not like a cartoon, you know, because mm-hmm. I mean, it's easy. Lenny could have easily been a stereotype, but I didn't want him to be. And I think Nick treated him like an actual character, and we worked really hard to give him little tics that again didn't make him seem like a caricature, but a character. And of course, I have to give a huge shout out to my entire art department, Lexi Lovetier, who, like, 2 nights before was like, hey, I was just reading the script, and I noticed he had braces, and so I didn't know if you still wanted, so I just, like, you know, threw this together. And she made, like, mock braces out of, like, earring backings and wire. And Nick and I had tried before looking up ways to do fake braces, but everything was unsafe. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, okay, I don't want to endanger you. It's not that big of a deal. We won't do it. Mm-hmm. And then Lexi just found a way to make the braces work, and it just tied everything together. So it's like you see him now, and it's not Nick, you know, it's Lenny. Right. And I think that was something that Gabe and I were worried about, because we didn't want people to watch it and be like, oh, it's Nick, and be taken out. Mm-hmm. And we know to some extent it's going to happen, but it's like, I think just objectively, Nick did such a good job. Like, he was Lenny, and there's all these like little things he would do, and he would add to it, or he would be like, hey, like, could I do this, you know? And mm-hmm. It was great, and I think Lenny as a character was something I was really excited to kind of, you know, write and do and like figure out, because when I initially pitched the idea, I told people like, oh, kind of there's like a punchline that she's like attracted to him sexually, but he's like not sexy at all. Mm-hmm. And that'd always throw people off. They'd be like, well, I think he should be attractive a little bit. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, that's confusing. And I'd be like, no, like, that's what makes it funny. And then there's also the point of, like, everyone has their preferences, you know what I mean? Right. And I definitely would say I drew inspiration from Polly Bleeker in Juno, because initially you find out, like, she's pregnant by this kid, and it's kind of like joke, but then it's like you realize as you're watching the movie, like, oh, like, he's taken serious as a love interest. Mm-hmm. And I think at the wee age of 14, when I watched that, I was very much like I walked away with something of like, wow, I'd never seen that before. Mm-hmm. So Lenny was a fun character, because there was a lot of people who I could tell were kind of like confused by it, or like they wanted him to be kind of the stereotypical like cool kid in the class, or not that they wanted him to be, but that's what they expected. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I made that decision, because it's like, it's not what you expect. Yeah. But I mean, it's not hard to love Lenny, because Nick just does such a good job with him, and he's so sweet, he's adorable, he's so funny. Like it's like every time he's on screen, mm-hmm. it's incredible. So I loved working with him, just from director to actor. He was great to work with. Him and Eve had great chemistry. I tried this thing that where I've heard that the directors will do things with like their actors who have a specific dynamic, is they'll try to set up a situation in real life to help influence that. So like I heard the director of the real life Cinderella, or the live action Cinderella, when the prince and Cinderella first meet, it's like a specific scene in the movie, and the director kept the actors. They didn't want them to talk at all until they filmed that scene. And so it comes across authentic. And so I did something like that in Rubber Gut with Leah and Irina, our actress who played the mom. I didn't have them talk to each other at all until they started shooting, just to kind of give that awkward like tension. And so I had Nick and Eve exchange phone numbers. And I was like, this could either be great or this could be super awkward and we could just forget about it tomorrow. But he told me they hit it off and they like had a lot in common, and they like by the time they were on set, they were like good friends. And I think that really influenced their chemistry, because they definitely sell the friendship on screen.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the little things that you put into the character, like the braces and the over-tucked shirt, and the fact that he wasn't wearing, Nick wears glasses, the fact that he wasn't wearing glasses and stuff, and I think all that came together to really bring him to life. And also Nick's performance was great, and I felt that he wasn't a caricature. It's like, I think I've seen this person before in my life, one point or another. But yeah, they both of them did a fantastic job, and you did a great job directing them.
Thank you.
And yeah, going off of that and the whole thing about having them chat over Facebook until they got on set. Have you sort of established like a specific style of directing, or like what things do you as a director like to do on set, or how does your work ethic work as a director?
Yeah, so this was actually a huge thing I learned at filming my directing 2 final, because I didn't have time to talk with the actors until like the day of. So a lot of our workflow would be, because my team, first of all, was like super efficient. So I'm like, okay, you set up the shot, I'm gonna go talk with actors. And it's like, I would be done talking with actors and they're just like sitting around on their phones because they've been set up for like 15 minutes and just waiting on me, right? And so after that experience, I was like, okay, I need to talk to actors before so you can get on set, and it's like you can just kind of go through your day. It makes things a lot easier. You're not taking time out of setups. You can get through so much more just talking to them beforehand. And so I made an effort to reach out to all the key actors and work with them. I had a Skype call with Jasmine Wright, who played Margot, the leader of the support group. We ran through some of her lines. She gave me some questions, feedback. With Eve, she'd sent me an email of like 20 questions about Angie's character. Some of them I didn't even know, and I was just like, oh, dang, okay. And then with Nick, I had the luxury of like taking 3 hours out of like a Friday and just working with him. So I would definitely say a huge takeaway from what I did in directing too is like working with actors beforehand, because it gives you a chance to play with things and to have fun and to like experiment and be like, hey, do you want it more this way, or do you want it more like that? Or does that line feel awkward? Like, what would feel more natural to say? Like, try saying that. And it's like, if they have certain scenes down more than others, you can work on the ones that are more difficult. You can also create things that you can reference back to. So it's like, if you establish something like, say it kind of like this, or if you reference something kind of just between the two of you, you can reference that on set and they just know exactly what you're talking about. Like, hey, remember how we talked about this? Like, try implementing that. And so I don't know if it was that process or I just had great casting this project, but it definitely helped the flow so much. I felt like every time we did another take, it was either for a safety or it was for like a technical camera or lighting thing. It wasn't because I didn't like the performance. So that definitely helps, because it's like you get on set and they know what you want and they just deliver and it's great.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's definitely how I like to work, is because I think directing a movie is almost, in a way, like directing a play, because at least with the actors. I think that's your main job, is to get the performance out of the actors. Like, you can make all the nice little set decks and special effects, all that stuff, that's great, but if the actors don't pull it together, the whole movie's going to fall apart. So, and I like that. I like the chance to sit down with the actors and just be like, let's talk about this, let's block this out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they did for, I think it was someone did a Dracula movie or something. I think it was Francis Ford Coppola.
Mm-hmm.
And they blocked the whole thing. Like, they spent like a month in the soundstage and just like, let's just run through the whole thing like a show, block through your scenes. Then when they were on set, they was like, remember that thing we did? Do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's so useful and so effective. Even like one of my favorite directors, James Gunn, does that for Guardians of the Galaxy, and he said it was like the most efficient shoot he's ever been on. It's like,
yeah.
I want that, because I want to be in that point where I'm directing big budget movies, and it's just like, I can have that sort of ease on set where it's just like, remember that thing? Let's do that. And I'm still sort of working my way towards that as a director. But just to hear somebody else, the way the way that you work too, is just like, oh, at least I'm not the only one who appreciates that.
Yeah, it's definitely the biggest takeaway, especially the more emotional stuff. Like, you want to be able to like talk through it, and it's like, if you're pressured on set because you only have so much time, like, that's really gonna cut into your stuff. So it's like, everything works smoothly, and I definitely credit it to the fact that I did work with them ahead of time, and so they knew what I wanted going in. Even our pickups, like, Nick and Eve met with me like an hour before we started shooting, and they just ran through the scene.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, it's just, this is the one thing that looking back on our time here at JPCatholic, it's just like, that's the one thing I wish we had more time to do, is like have time to actually work with the actors, because a lot of it's just like, hey, last minute, can you play this big part in my 2-minute movie for directing one or something, and you don't really have time to like explain to them fully what the movie is, and like how to portray it, and really work on getting that performance to where it needs to be. Not that, everything we've done here is terrible or anything like that, or that the performances are terrible, but some people like just naturally just walk on set, do it, and go.
Yeah.
But you definitely want to have that chance to work on it so that you feel satisfied with the performance, and it's like, okay, this flows, this works, this is what I was looking for. But at the same time, with how the program is set up, it's like, just kind of have to throw that under the rug, I guess, just for the sake of making. It's almost a challenge in a way. It's like, how can you make a good movie without all those, commodities that a director would normally have,
Right.
What else do I want to ask? You talked a little bit about inspiration, and Gabe talked a little bit about it too, about like specific films. I know you mentioned Juno. Is there any other films that like stick out to you that like really helped set the tone and the feel of the movie?
Yeah, so I've noticed, because obviously this movie, talking about it a lot, I get asked that question of like inspiration, and I've noticed with me anyways that my ideas for things is sort of like, it's a melting pot of everything I've seen. Like, I can't point to one movie and be like, oh, I tried to basically make that, For example, with Rubber Gut, like a lot of the quick cutting and the inserts and everything, everyone was like, oh, like Edgar Wright, and I'm just like, yeah. But it was also a lot of like, in, again, Juno, we're introduced to, it's Polly Bleeker, and then we're introduced to Jennifer Gardner's character. We're introduced to them in inserts and close-ups, and they are slower paced, and they're not like quick, but it's like, it was like a mixture of both of those things. That's where I got that idea from. So it's like, I can't just point to one thing.
Right.
I would say, I think Juno's always going to be a big inspiration to me, because it was one of the first independent films I saw. I was like 14, and it was so new and fresh, and it just stuck with me. So there's a lot of like golds and reds and greens in that one. That's kind of where my go-to color palette is. Although Me, Earl and the Dying Girl had a more consistent color palette kind of for everything. Whereas Juno, it's mainly like in her room that you kind of see it mostly. But then again, Me and the Dying Girl was it wasn't very saturated. So it was kind of like, okay, I want these colors, but I wanted the vibrance that Juno had the colors in. Our cinematography came from Me and the Dying Girl because it's like a lot of crazy whip pans and like long takes of things. And I would say I still haven't been able to put it into words, but I really like kind of the really dry comedy of like Nacho Libre and Napoleon Dynamite. How it's like you again, it's the visual aspect, like it has to all come together. Right. It's not a punchline that makes it funny, so it's like a lot of the decisions of like we'll cut to a wide where nothing's happening, like that's funny, you know. Even like I think the only specific things that I can remember where I was like, oh, like from that movie was we were trying to think of an effective way to show that she was having kind of her like, you know, sexual like feelings or whatever. And I was like how do you like put that on screen and it makes sense, right? And then I remembered from 21 Jump Street, my favorite movies of all time, when they like accidentally took drugs. And they're stopped in the hallway from the coach, and the coach is like, "Are you guys on drugs?" And it's like this moment of like these random images, like stuff like a watermelon's exploding, someone's crunching on something like close up, and there's like a lot of sound design going on. And I was like, that's how I want it to feel. And so I was like trying to emulate that. But it's funny because I was watching Juno at one point with Lexi, who did set deck and everything for my project. And there's like the moment where she's in the abortion clinic and she notices everyone's like scratching, they're picking their nails, and it's like super close up and there's a lot of sound design. And she was like, is that where the thing from Chirp came from? And I was like, actually no, but I wouldn't be surprised if subconsciously it did. Yeah. So it's just a lot of stuff like that. I think there's a lot of techniques that I've seen in movies that I've liked that I try to emulate. I wouldn't say that there's like one thing that I'm like, oh, I want to try to replicate that. So which I'm glad, because I want it to feel like its own thing. I don't want it to feel like a knockoff of something. And so I think it's cool to be able to like have an idea and to kind of backtrack and then say, where did that come from? And just kind of think of stuff I've seen. And I like that. I think I like doing things that, you know, people haven't seen before. So not completely ripping off a movie. It's like I like being able to do that. So yeah, so it's a combination of a lot of movies I've seen. It's a combination of the specific kinds of comedies that just work. And so I don't know, I can't do punchlines, I can't do things like that, but I can do stuff like, I don't know, it's like
situational stuff.
It's situational, or it's like deadpan. You know, it's like just like the awkward silences are just kind of just there. I don't know. Right. It's a combination of a lot of things I've seen. So
have you seen The Edge of 17?
I have.
That I didn't see that movie until after we shot Chirp. And I saw that and I'm like, this kind of, I don't want to say it feels like Church, but it just kind of feels like the same caliber of movie. And I was curious if you had seen that, and maybe that had inspired some things, or if you really pulled from that, or
I can't.
If not at all.
I know we started developing it as it was coming out, so I hadn't seen it prior to. And I know it was definitely marketed as like trying to kind of be in that circle. I don't know if that was very accurate, because it didn't feel very like kind of that, it didn't feel like in that same vein, but it was a great movie and I thought it was a lot of fun. Wasn't really an inspiration though, but I think I was still a great movie. I was pleasantly surprised with, because I felt like it could have been easily a lot of cliched moments, and it just felt like, I don't know, day in the life, of someone growing up. And I think, you know, obviously it's one of those movies where like we're always told, oh, the character needs to grow and change. But this one, it felt like an authentic, like she really had a wake up call. And that was really cool to see. So, wasn't an inspiration, but it was still, I definitely watched it and I really liked it.
Cool.
So.
Yeah, it's funny. I was looking at that movie for a completely different genre, a science fiction movie I was writing, because it was the one I was doing in the class with Mortensen, the first one. I'm trying to figure out this high school character, and it's like I don't know how a high school girl works. So I was like, what can I watch? And I just like scoured the internet for the age of 17, watched that, and I was like, I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. So it's weird how movies like that you don't think would influence like a science fiction movie of that caliber. So anyways, that's cool. We're getting off topic. But last thing to sort of wrap this all up. Any other last remarks you want to leave people with before we all see most of us see the film?
Jeez, I don't know. It's been fun. If I could tell myself a year ago where I'd be, I wouldn't, because I would want myself to kind of go through the experiences. But I think I'd love to look back on that student who was still in directing too, who was trying really hard to make something cool and to live up to an expectation and prove something to herself, that she can be ambitious and she can direct. She just has to put herself out there and take risks. And I tell her, like, it's going to pay off, because I've done so much with this, and I'm really proud of myself, and I'm proud of my team. I'm proud of Gabe. And I can look back on it and count my regrets on one hand. So I think that's really exciting. And I just hope that, we get, as many laughs at the actual screening as we did on the test screening, because it's cool to hear people react positively to something you did and something you believe in, and it just kind of goes to show that, like, I hit all the right notes. So I'm proud of it. Everyone listening who helped on it, you should be proud of it. Everyone who can see it, please come see it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Here's a better question than that one.
Okay, no worries.
Looking back at this and looking to sort of the future after Chirp, what are what are you hoping to do after this? Like, is this going to lead into directing more things in this style? Is this sort of like you cementing these are the films that to expect from Miley Durbin?
It's funny. I've really wanted to do drama. I didn't really think I was funny enough to do comedy, so I've kind of stumbled into this genre. Not to say that there won't be comedies, because I think I can't help but think in this mentality now, but there's a lot of ideas I had for shorts and for features, and they're all kind of like everywhere. I really don't want to be kind of in one genre.
To one genre.
Yeah, because I think I get inspired by a lot of things, and I get inspired to do a lot of things, and I think that's a fun challenge of being well-rounded. And so I think I'm not gonna promise anything. I'm not gonna say that these are the kind of movies I'm gonna keep making for the rest of my life. I want to explore other things. I feel like each story, as it's being told, has an aesthetic and has a world and has a tone that's appropriate for that story. And not everything is supposed to be told in a comedic way, just as not everything is most effective told in a dramatic way. So I just want to keep telling stories in whatever shape or form those come in. So.
Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, having been brought onto the core team, having read the script, having been on set and seen everything I've seen, I've been really excited for this project most of all.
Thank you.
It's I do like this genre of the quirky indie comedy, because it is different. It's not something that's like celebrated by all, but it's something that people do. Some people at least value, and I'm one of those people. And seeing you do it, first seeing Rubber Gut, I was just like, I want to see what you do next.
Oh,
and not only seeing what you do next, but being allowed to be a part of that has been really awesome. So for that, I thank you for letting me be on this project. And
thank you for doing it. You were such a great. I was so happy you were on it, because it was just such a good job.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you were great.
I do sound Just so you know.
And that's not like, that's a hard job to do. Every time I'm watching a rough cut with Mary, like she always says, the sound is so clean. Like it's so beautiful.
Oh man, that makes me so happy.
Yeah, we've not had like any issues with sound like at all. So
wonderful.
That's
wonderful.
A big testament. And that's Scoggins' big thing. He's like, watch out for sound. That's what's going to keep you from being in the screening.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
it's like, it's definitely an important job that not a lot of people can excel at. So
well, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, this isn't about me. This is about Chirp. So yeah, I think you all need to be. I know I've been saying this time and time again. I talk about Chirp when you guys aren't on air. So look forward for Chirp because it's going to be a great film. And I don't know when you guys are going to see it. Probably not for a while, but trust me when I say it is a fantastic movie. It's going to be a fantastic movie. And yeah, look forward to it. And that was our topic of the week. Again, I don't have a shout out. I'm just going to go default from what I did last week and shout out all the senior projects. Of course, we had Gabe Miley on now from Chirp Buzz. We're going to try to get Preston from ARC and JJ from ARC. We're going to try to get Susie Duenas from La Oportunidad, Andrew Carlisi from Within, and Claire McKay, my co-director from Windfall Rising. So yeah, shout out to all you guys, senior projects. Hope they're all working out well. I can say Windfall is turning out really well. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good.
Miley, thank you for being on the show again.
Thanks for asking me to be on the show.
Yeah, probably the last time for a while, but
right.
We'll do it again.
Yeah,
eventually.
Eventually.
Where can the people find you online, or Twitter, or Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that?
I'm at Miley Durbin on Twitter, and I don't have an Instagram. Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm not a cinematographer. I don't take cool pictures. But I'm on Twitter.
Your Twitter's pretty great. I get a kick out of your Twitter. You and Elizabeth and Susie and
It's
Gabe.
just us quoting each other. But I'm glad you get a kick out of it.
It brings a smile to my face, brightens my day.
Good.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching episode 24 with the Vince Salerno Podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and check out my short films, trailer reactions, and more episodes of the Vince Salerno Podcast. Next week is episode 25. I don't know who's going to be on there, but 25 episodes, and I've been doing this for almost over a year, so pretty exciting. And, yeah, okay. All right, thank you all for watching. Have a great day, weekend, whenever you're watching us. Have a great day. God bless, and peace out.